You are going to see my better half here. I didn't mean a wife, by the way, just so after I said that. Although my ex-girlfriend is now a nun, but that's another story for another time. My name is Father Mike Siski. I am a Franciscan friar, as you well know. I've been in vows for about 30 years. I've been ordained for 23. Most of that time has been spent in a small little church in Arlington, Texas, St. Maria Goretti's. I'm sure that if you have been a parishioner here, and I've seen the number of friars that have come through Good Shepherd Catholic Community, you have realized that we're not a cookie-cutter religious community. We don't look the same. We have different personalities. Some of them have very interesting quirks and idiosyncrasies. Not me, by the way, just so you know. But that's a good thing, because with our different personalities, we can reach people who think differently, who act differently, and we can relate to them in a different way. At Thursday's daily Mass, I told the people, don't expect me to be like the former Father Mike. I am not going to wax eloquently over the scriptures. I don't have an academic background like he did. I'm not going to give you analogies that reference sports teams like Father Zach may do, because I don't follow sports. I wasn't brought up that way with my parents. But I do have my own quirks and idiosyncrasies that I will own. I am probably the only friar in our community that would be able to tell you that there are 133 days until Christmas. I have an obsession with Christmas. In fact, in my office in Arlington, I had 9 Christmas trees. What? Yes. One was 7 foot. The rest were 5 foot or something like that, but none of them were green. If your name is Michael or Michelle, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands. We're instigators a lot of the time. We push the buttons, and then we stand back and we watch everything else happen around us. So I had a pink tree and a blue tree and an orange tree and a purple tree, and it was really very festive. In fact, somebody got me one of those hand towels that said OCD, Obsessive Christmas Disorder. I own it. I own it. But you'll hear more about my story as we travel together on this journey of faith and life. But there is one thing I would like to call your attention to, because I got a little bit of controversy of it when I got my Texas license plates. My license plates, like many Texas license plates, start out with 3 letters, capital letters. Mine is capital G, capital D, capital D. But when you park in a clergy spot, people misread that and think it says God. It does not. So please, no email saying, how dare you get a license plate like that. It's capital G, capital D, capital D. So just want to make that clear. When I was looking at the readings today, I thought how appropriate these readings are for this community and for myself during this time of transition. It's a time where some of us feel abandoned, some of us might feel lost, some of us might feel questioning God. Like, why did Father Mike Higgins have to leave? Why did Father Ron have to leave? I mean, myself, why did I have to leave this parish that I spent so many years at it in Arlington? And these readings today speak about that understanding and that trust and that faith that we need to have in God, that He is with us through whatever we're going through in life. He has not abandoned us. That first reading, Elijah is frustrated with God. He was this mighty prophet. He went telling people what he heard God say to him, and they didn't like it. So they were seeking his life. They were plotting to kill him, and he was running and running and running and making very little headway. They were on his tail. So finally he gets up to Mount Horeb, and he basically gives up. He hides himself in a cave and says, okay, Lord, this is it. I can't do this anymore. And God says, I've been with you. Go to the entrance of the cave. I'm going to pass by you. So he goes, and there's this earthquake, and there's a fire, and he doesn't see the God he's looking for. But then there's that little whispering sound deep within him, and he hears the voice of God. And he realizes that God hasn't abandoned him. God was with him all this time. The same thing can be said about that gospel that we've heard so many times, and we've seen the images of Peter sinking and Jesus reaching out his hand. You know, Jesus is walking across the sea, and there's this storm, and all the apostles see are the waves and the wind, and then they see this person coming towards them, and it's a ghost. I just want you to think, these are the people who have been traveling with Jesus for at least 3 years. They saw the miracles he has done. They saw the way he has fed the multitudes, cast out demons, cured the sick. But the storms blocked them from seeing who Jesus really was. Peter, on the other hand, though, he hears the small voice. Lord, if that's you, tell me to come. And over the waves and the wind, he hears Jesus say, come. So Peter takes that step off the boat and starts to walk. But again, the waves and the wind distract him from trusting in God. And he starts to fall and sink. I can't imagine what he was going through at that time, thinking that he was going to drown. Jesus reaches down, takes him by the hand, gets in the boat. You know, this always fascinated me. Why didn't Jesus calm the storm right when it started? Why would he allow his disciples to be in fear? Why would he let Peter sink and wonder if he was going to drown? He didn't calm the storm till he got back into the boat. And I think it's because God doesn't want us to think of him just simply as a miracle worker. He wants a relationship with us. He wants us to hear that small, small voice within our very being saying, I got you. I'm with you. I'm not going to let anything happen to you that's not for your best. And you might not see the best right away, but I promise you, I'm with you. You know, the only way we're going to be comfortable hearing that voice is if we have a dedicated prayer life, a time set aside each day for God. Now, I'm not asking you to set aside an hour or two. That's not how God calls you to pray in the real world. But you need to have that quiet time with him. I would caution you too, don't just say prayers. You know, if you're a cradle Catholic, you learn to say the Our Fathers, the Hail Mary, the Glory Be. But you need to pray for the reality of the things in life that you're dealing with. Lord, help me deal with that spouse of mine who just seems not to understand me. Bless them. Let me see the gift they are. Lord, bless my children or my parents. Help them through this situation. But again, let me see the gift they are. I was thinking about that the other day. It's just like, you know, if we use God just as a miracle worker, I don't know how many of this has happened to you, but I have some friends, both in my pre-ordained life and even in my life now, that every time the phone rings and I see their name come up, I don't want to answer it because I know they're just going to want something. They want some money. They want this. They want that. But that's the only time I hear from them. Some of us treat God the same way. The only time he hears from us is when we want something. We don't care what he wants. He wants us. He wants our relationship. So ask yourself, do I make time for God? Because it doesn't matter if you're a great prophet or if you're a future pope sitting in this room, or if you're like the fishermen who have to work hard every day to make ends meet. Storms are going to come up in our life, and things are going to happen. Some of them severe, some of them squalls that blow up and then blow away. But do we know that God is with us through all things? If we truly know the love of God, then we will be able to face any storm that we are faced with.